LGBT evaluation in North Africa and the Middle East. Over the past decades, our world has changed so many norms, and this evolution hasn't been happening in a certain part of the world. Instead, it's everywhere, and now in the Middle East and North Africa is somewhat adapting to the global norms. So, up to what Middle East and North Africa is when it comes to LGBT. This needed to be covered, so here we are with some great stuff to share with you. Although the LGBT community has seen much controversy related to its struggle to universal acceptance, they have been facing evaluation in North Africa and the Middle East, but the question is to what extent they have achieved that goal. Certain reasons have been stated for this, and in today's video, we will be discussing them, so make sure you stick till the end. Let's begin. The term LGBT has been a positive symbol of annexation. LGBT now seems to have many variants, including LGBTQIA, LGBT+, and LGBTQIA+. The terms pansexual, omnisexual, fluid, and queer identified fall under the category of bisexual, and therefore are considered a part of the bisexual community. Some use LGBT+ to mean LGBT and related communities. LGBTQIA uses and adds queer, intersex, and asexual to the basic term. The term trans has been used by some groups as a more appropriate alternative to transgender, where trans has been used to describe trans men and trans women, while trans covers all non-cisgender identities. The inclusion of the intersex to the term LGBT refers to the relationship of intersex to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans, and queer communities is complex, but intersex people are often added to the LGBT category to create an LGBTI community. The term homosexuals, although now used in the scientific terms, has carried it with many negative connotations, specifically in the Middle East and North African countries. Homophobia means the state of hatred or prejudice against the gay people in people's hearts and minds. Homophobia is common in North Africa and the Middle East. It is considered a crime and is not legalized in these regions, unlike the West, which gives its full support. The people of these areas do not give the homophobic their rights. They consider it illegal even if they apply the Sharia law or they apply the European laws, which were given during the time of colonialism. The laws do not criminalize the sexual acts as such except for the countries like Yemen, Algeria, Iraq, and UAE, which refer to lesbianism and homosexuality clearly according to the penal codes. Penal codes are the code of laws that deal with criminal offenses and their punishment, but it condemns the sexual behaviors according to legislature. It forbids and condemns the acts such as sodomy, anal or oral intercourse between human beings, or any sexual relations between a human being and an animal, the act of which may be punishable as a criminal offense. It forbids and condemns debauchery, someone who is indulged excessively in alcohol, drugs, and sexual activities, and obscene acts, usually shown in films and dramas, but also practiced in reality. An example of it can be given when, in 2014, 8 men from Egypt were arrested for openly practicing and posting same-sex or gay wedding and were sentenced to 3 years of imprisonment under the charge of debauchery. The penalties and punishment for homosexuality differs from country to country. Some countries sentence for 3 years minimum to 7 years maximum of imprisonment. In Muslim countries like Yemen and Sudan, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, the punishment for homosexuality is a death sentence. Similarly, moving towards the Emirates, there is a death penalty for same-sex relations and same-sex weddings, but never had anyone heard of a known case when the penalty might have been imposed. There are countries where the penal codes do not consider homosexuality a crime. These countries include Iraq, Turkey, and Jordan. But the rights of the LGBT are also not acknowledged, and discrimination is still made among these sect of people. But there is still one state in the Middle East which gives complete recognition to the homosexuals and same-sex couple, and that is Israel. In 2011, for the very first time, the United Nations Organization Human Rights Council passed a resolution 1719 on sexual orientation and gender identity, which expressed its grave concerns about the practices and acts of violence, discrimination, and abuse against the LGBT community. The UN Human Rights Council commissioned a complete and thorough study that focused entirely on the issues related to the LGBT community. But as there was opposition in some organizations, the countries from the Middle East who were members of the United Nations opposed the resolution at the time. The reasons for this opposition were obviously religious and political. Each of the reasons had its own details, which have been mentioned below. Religious reason. The concept of homosexuality contradicts and stands against the main principles of religion. The religions which condemn the act of homosexuality are mainly Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. The Quran narrates the story of the people of Lot, destroyed by the wrath of God because the men engaged in lustful carnal acts between themselves. Homosexual acts are forbidden in traditional Islamic jurisprudence and are liable to different punishments, including stoning and the death penalty, depending on the situation in legal school, that is. Political reasons. The political reasons rest on the fact that the Middle Eastern countries thought that homosexuality was a concept that was imported from the West by people. They believed that the homosexuals were a danger to their traditional norms and cultural societies. In the Middle East and North Africa, the pandemic time has revealed that how much discrimination the LGBTQ community has to face every day in terms of education, healthcare facilities, nutrition and diet, and sense of security. It was revealed that many LGBT activists were assaulted and were subjected to abusive acts in different parts of the world. In some less authoritative countries, many NGOs have been formed that are striving hard to give the LGBT community its basic rights, and they are actively participating in eliminating the discriminations made against them. The activists from Arabic countries in the Middle East and North Africa are strongly resisting the repression caused by the states and the social stigma. These countries include Morocco, Tunisia, and Lebanon on top. Tunisia has not stopped its efforts to recognize the rights of the LGBT community worldwide. A debate has been going on for 2 years in Tunisia, where a recommendation on reforming the legislature was being given. The reformed legislature should approve and completely recognize the rights of the LGBT community. The lawmakers are pleading for a repeal of the Article 230. The Article 230 criminalizes the same-sex relations. The National Council of Medical Order in April 2017 issued a statement where they forbade the medical practitioners to practice the forced anal and genital examinations. From the reports made in Audacity in Adversity, LGBT activism in Middle East and North Africa, and the video reports from No Longer Alone, share the stories of the activists and their journey towards self-acceptance. They give the people of the community strength, motivation, and supportive messages. The reports are based on interviews and surveys that have been made with different people from Middle East and North African countries. The activists encouraged young LGBT people to stand up for themselves. These people have said in their reports that they are humans just like everyone else, and they deserve to be given their fundamental human right and recognition. These activists are striving hard to bring a substantial change in the society. The LGBT community usually faces the following obstacles in their ways: criminalization of same-sex conduct, gender nonconformity, arbitrary arrests, ill treatment, lack of recognition of transgender people, violence against the community, restrictions on freedom of expression and association, family rejection, social stigma. People from countries like Oman and Kuwait have worked hard to establish an organizational network where these guys can meet and work for the future securely. They've helped the transgender to learn digital security. In Jordan, many people are using art and theater to spread awareness about social orientation and gender identity among people. The activists are now leaving no stone unturned in their war against the so-called normal people for the recognition of their rights, to eliminate discrimination from its roots, and search for solutions to remove the hurdles from the ways of their movement. They are working tirelessly to get rid of the abuse and the violence made against them. They're putting in all the efforts to make the world know that they are also normal people like the rest of the world who deserve peace and life. They're working to prove the quotes, "When you reduce your life to black and white, you never see rainbows." That brings us to the end of today's video. Do you think LGBTQ should be evaluated? If yes, what are your reasons? Do share with us in the comments down below, and we'll catch you in the next one.